This is better. So I'm here to talk about the MODRNA working group and what we do and what's the status of the working group. So MODRNA's purpose is to support GSMA and their technical development of Mobile Connect and enable mobile network operators to be an identity provider. And the working group is developing a profile as well as extensions to the OpenID Connect specification to use by MNOs for providing identity services. Participants are a mix of mobile network operators, telecom operators, solutions providers, such as Ping, UbiSecure. There are also the various companies are also editors of the documents that we're working on. But these are the core companies that participates on a regular basis. So what's Mobile Connect? Mobile Connect uses a mobile phone number as a user identifier and the mobile device or phone as your authenticator. The MNO in that scenario serves the role of authenticating the user and the identity provider. And it replaces the password and the traditional hardware security tokens by using your phone number as well as your mobile device as your for that. So why do we care? So this is kind of an example use case of where Mobile Connect will come in. So traditionally, you log into your website, you select what you want to purchase, and you go through a checkout process. So first you have to fill out a form and then create your username password. You complete your registration, you select your payment type, you authorize your transaction, and you're done. The point of a Mobile Connect is that you log in, use a Mobile Connect as part of the checkout process, and then authenticate with your mobile device, and you're done. So that is the value proposition for Mobile Connect. So for those who are not familiar with Mobile Connect, so Mobile Connect has specified a set of service enablers. There's authentication, authorization, identity, and attributes. So the purpose of the service enablers is to combine them to different use cases. So for example, let's use attributes. So you could use attribute sharing, for example, in a case where you are trying to apply for a credit card using a mobile device. You log in with your Mobile Connect account, the bank requests the attributes, does a form fill of that form, and the user goes through and just accept, and then you're done. Similar use case could be in a healthcare use case where you go to the doctor, you need to fill out a form before you see the doctor. The same thing happens. It's an autofill of the form, you review it, and you sign. You're done. So this is the Mobile Connect reference architecture. Again, just to go through what's actually happening. The user clicks on the Mobile Connect button as it's trying to, when it goes in and access a service provider's website. The service provider requests, it is an MNO discovery through the API exchange. So it gets back a redirect URI and then sends that request down to the service, the mobile network operator for authentication. The operator then selects an appropriate authenticator, and that could be based on level of assurance requested by the service provider for the specific this request. It could be based on policy. Hypothetically, a bank says, I only want to do Fido authentication. And then the user authenticates. And then the mobile network order responds to the service providers that you complete your authentication. So where does MODRNA fit in? So MODRNA specifies the MNO discovery, first of all, and then it's also when the service provider sets up their client to go through a client registration. And then MODRNA also specifies the authentication profile is used for the authentication part. Maybe I should clarify, if you look at the Mobile Connect architecture, it really has two components. It has the OpenID Connect interface, northbound between the MNO and the service provider, which is really federation of the identity. Then there's authentication. And the authentication in Mobile Connect can be a SIM applet, it could be Fido, it could be one-time password, it could be other options. MODRNA addresses the federation. The federation of the identity does not address the authentication part. So there's been a couple of talks about Fido. So Fido does the authentication. Fido does not address federation. So Mobile Connect really has two components to its architecture. So again, MODRNA addresses the federation part. So there's three core MODRNA specification, and again, it's the discovery part. We also added in the discovery service also something called account chooser, which is another OpenID Foundation specification for caching your login identifier, and so that you don't have to do the discovery to the one API exchange. We have the client registration. It's based on the OpenID Connect dynamic client registration, and with added the software statement and some mandatory claims in the statements. And it also includes some lifecycle management in terms of when a client needs to be revoked. It could be that you don't provide service to a certain RP anymore, and so you would have to be able to revoke that RP. That's all included in the client registration specification. And then we have the authentication specification, specifies ACR values and additional parameters. I mentioned that we do some additional work. So the working group has been working on what's called a client-initiated back-channel authentication. So this is a mechanism for authentication out-of-band where the user is not involved. So there's a server-to-server communication where the server requests authentication of the user without going through so the user logs in, attempts to log in, the server acts on behalf of the client. We also have a user question API that is doing a transaction authorization using a resource server and also doing a server-to-server interaction. And finally, we have an account porting. So this allows for the migration of a user from an old OP to a new OP. So Mobile Connect had a requirement in its life cycle that when a user changes their phone number, they want to take the Mobile Connect account with them as opposed to have to set it up again. So this specification was developed to support that use case and specifies the process for how you actually move your Mobile Connect or your Mobile Connect account from your old MNO to your new MNO. So what's the current status of our work? So 4 of our specs has moved into implementers draft, and if you were here early, you would hear that E was mentioning that implementers draft is a milestone in the publication process of a OpenID Foundation specification. So it clears all the IPR policies for the content of that specification. So these are, as of early May of this year, now implementer's draft. We had also started to have a closer collaboration with the financial API working group on use cases, on Mobile Connect, and also on the back-channel authentication. So the back-channel authentication was really a banking use case that was pursued. And so we're collaborating with the FAPI working group so they could leverage some of this work for their implementation. And so we're currently going in the process of revising the client back-channel authentication specification based on the input from FAPI, where, again, the initial use case assumed that there's an MNO who's on the OP. This could possibly be a bank who's the identity provider. So we're going to do a review process based on the input that we're having with FAPI as well as with GSMA. So I mentioned that we're working with the GSMA. So Mobile Connect has adopted portions of the authentication spec, and we're moving into an implementer's draft. They're now going to adopt that specification. We've had a closer collaboration with the GSMA as of early last year, so we're hosted 2 different workshops to address use cases that Mobile Connect has and specification enhancement required. I wanted to point out that the account migration that GSMA had developed actually broke the OpenID Connect specification. So the account porting was a result of that discussion. And so GSMA has now adopted the implementer's draft and replaced that with what they initially been working on. And I mentioned that we're working on the back-channel authentication. That was, again, an initial use case from GSMA that they proposed. Finally, where Mobile Connect is going, they're going down the same path of adopting some of the discovery functionality in the discovery specification, as well as the dynamic client registration, and including a client software statement. So in their architecture, there is a development portal. And so the development portal will issue the software statement when the RP registers their client. And so we have ongoing discussions with GSMA, and as the architecture evolves, more and more of the work that the MODRNA is working on is being incorporated to what Mobile Connect is. And that's all I had for today. Questions?
Thank you for the presentation. So during the presentation, I saw you saying that this is mainly for GSMA, right? So are there any plans for supporting CDMA, or does it really just support GSM?
Actually, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your access technology is independent. So as I mentioned, the Mobile Connect architecture has 2 components. It has the federation of the identity, and it has the authentication. And so the authentication part is where your radio interface comes into play. And it's independent on MODRNA, what kind of authentication mechanism you choose. It's, from a MODRNA perspective, we're just addressing how you do discovery, how you set up your client, as well as how you do authentication. The choice of authentication is maybe a Mobile Connect specific implementation or choice. It has a set of authentication options that it has listed, and it's really independent. So for example, USSD is a typical GSMA or GSM implementation. You can do it on CDMA too. It includes GBA. You can do GBA on any access technology. Verizon being a CDMA carrier deploying LTE, our authentication is totally independent of which access technology you use. So.
Hi, I'm from Microsoft, work on Azure AD. So we've been partnering on Telefonica and Mobile Connect. The piece that I'm curious about is why did you choose to go with this architecture as opposed to just having a gateway that combines the discovery and proxying to the appropriate MNO? It seems like Moderna needed, like there is a body that is outside of MNO that is standing up the discovery service anyways. Isn't it?
Correct.
Yes, given that you're standing up some technical component anyways, why wasn't the technical component also encompassing all the complexity associated with setting up relationship with
So a standard defines interfaces. How you choose to implement it is a different story. So in the Mobile Connect evolved architecture, you have a distributed discovery service. So this discovery service could be part of Spain. It could also be functionality of the lead MNO. So Telefonica could host the API exchange and incorporate to their identity gateway. So
I know, I understand that, but
okay.
it does impact the standard. Like the question I'm asking directly, the architecture choice that I'm asking impacts the way you write the standard. Because in this way, you have standardized a discovery service separate from the federation service. Right?
Okay, of course. So what would be the value of requiring that it's part of an identity gateway, that you don't have discovery?
You don't need discovery anymore, right? Like you just send it to the same gateway and the gateway kind of encapsulates discovery within it. I was just curious if there was practical concerns that guided that.
The practical concern is that you can't have one gateway for the entire planet. That doesn't scale, given that there's 280 operators all standing up Connect. You can't. So maybe a national gateway, but that still means that you have to have discovery separate from. So somebody from Pakistan who's using Mobile Connect when they go to India can still go use that same Mobile Connect to go to a relying party in India. So the actual discovery has to be global. Otherwise, you wind up with weird pockets of stuff. So all the discovery endpoints need to be global. Having a single global gateway is only the sort of madness that Microsoft might try. The operators, doesn't really make sense to have one single IDP, and even Microsoft is, per issuer signing keys.
I think you're confusing IDP with how you do service architecture. Nobody, even Microsoft doesn't run one actual server or one IP or one DNS entry or one anything for a global thing. So I think you're confusing a lot of architecture with logical block diagram.
There's no reason why it needs to be logical when the carriers don't trust it.
Yeah, it's okay. I was just curious if there was
So there are countries where groups of carriers are getting together and having a single gateway, but there's no consensus on having a single global gateway. That's a bridge too far, and I don't know that. If you have a separate discovery service that allows you to have regional or the GSMA has one, but individual carriers
Correct.
may decide to.
Correct.
So there will probably, Telefonica in Spain, at least for Movistar, has their own discovery service.
Correct.
And they're setting up one in Chile and
Correct.
on and on. So Movistar themselves have multiple discovery services that are regional, and
Correct.
The relying parties that they have a relationship with use theirs rather than the GSMA. Because if the GSMA were to go away, they want to make sure that their customers still operate. Not that the GSMA would ever go
And
away.
there are also there are also some regulatory requirements. So, for example, in Germany, MSISDN is a personal data, it's a PI data, and it cannot be provisioned outside Germany. So they need to have a regional a discovery node in Germany to satisfy the regulatory.
Going live anywhere? Do you have a story of any customer going live on?
2 billion accounts.
No. I'm talking about RP, relying party. Is there any relying party that's already lined up to go live in the next 6 months or something?
There are already relying parties in India, Pakistan, Malaysia. So it's mostly outside of North America that there are. I don't know. The GSMA probably has a list. They're not secret, but I don't know them off the top of my head. Some of the large relying parties. Telefonica has a fair number of customers. Orange in France already has a large number of customers.
Hi, I came to this talk last year, and you used that example, Orange and France Connect, as the relying party. And I saw some of the bigger names at the beginning. What is the rate of adoption of this particular profile over the last year in terms of those people that are choosing to use their phone as their network provider, as their identity provider? What's been the rate of adoption, would you say?
That I don't have any statistics on. It probably varies widely by country, and I'm not sure in a lot of countries people see it as, logging into the Indian version of eBay or some particular service. So they may not even recognize that it's Mobile Connect. I don't know. Bjorn, do you have any notion of what the actual usage is as far as like logins per day?
I do not. GSMA is the best source for that, but I don't. Again, it varies by region. So India and Pakistan, they have several, as well as in some Southeast Asia countries. They're doing a lot in Latin America and Spain. I think Telefonica has gone live in Spain with it, but I don't have any data on it.
Any questions?
Hi, my name is Takao Kojima from KDDI, Japanese telecom company. So, do you have information of adoption status of North American carrier?
On US carrier?
Yeah.
So we're currently in so I'm involved in a pilot in the US where Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile is participating. And so we have deployed this architecture with a hub configuration. So all operators are connected to a hub that has the identity gateway and the authentication server. And we're doing 4 different use cases. So not only is the architecture deployed, but we're doing use cases on financial, consumer goods, healthcare, and eGov services. So it's not commercial, it's a proof of concept pilot, but there are service providers such as Visa involved in the pilot to prove that you can do this and how you would do it, but it's not commercially deployed yet.
And
In Korea, I believe SKT has deployed Mobile Connect. I don't remember when they went live, but I know GSMA did a write-up about SKT. I don't know who the service provider they used for it, but I know it's gone live with SKT.
and another question. And do you have a sample login screen?
So it kind of depends on which authenticator you use. So I don't have a slide deck where that shows that. I think the best source to get what it would look like is Nstream in Canada. If you give me my card, I can see I can find you an update, a presentation on a kind of a user flow. But Nstream in Canada has they've done pilots and showed the user journey. But it kind of depends on which authenticator you use. If you use a SIM applet, it's not a very good user experience, and you have a window popping up where you type in your PIN. The smartphone app is probably the most user-friendly experience, but Mobile Connect doesn't really specify your client per se. It's also intended for the MNO to brand their client, and also if you would offer this as a third party, hypothetically you're logging in as through your your retailer's mobile app, then they would like to have their brand name, and it's possible too. So it doesn't restrict UX development. It's more about the underlying mechanism is specified.
Thank you all.